Hi class, I'm here today to talk about public highways. We're going to start with the original acts that started public highways in the United States, especially with Western expansion. Um, the Act of July 26th, 1866, an act that happened at the end of the Civil War, had the greatest impact on America's highways and easements for roads throughout most of the West. The reason it had the greatest act or impact was because it led to an act called Revised Statute 2477, which happened soon after July 26th, 1866. And this was a revised statute that took the intent of miners having been given waterways and canals and made it specifically about the road system. This put all the states in the United States in a system where, when they were given statehood, they were allowed to have land granted to them for the purposes of highways if people were using those roads uh, through public lands to advance commerce and agriculture. Um, the government then granted them the land to have as a highway, and it would stay a highway as all the land around it was surveyed and became uh, habit, inhabited. What I have here is a map of all the states that were given principal meridians and baselines according to the Public Land Survey System. That public land survey system was established with the Land Ordinance of 1785. All the colored states there then had baselines and meridians under the quote unquote rectangular system. And with all of that system of how they were set up, they also got the public lands, the federal laws on those public lands that the highways would be given granted. Um, Many of our land cases in state courts are owners trying to argue about roads, and none of those cases are more easily settled than roads that were established under Revised Statute 2477. Legislating the government's recognition of roads, of the public roads on public lands, allowed the federal government to place them under regulatory governances. This means that the state courts would rule on them. It means that in revised statute, it said that these would be public highways under the laws of the state, and it means that the state could pass those ordinances about roads down to the county level, and the county will be able to make decisions. That's where my paper really comes to its fullness. This paper isn't just about roads on federal lands. It's also about states that have private lands and have roads on private lands. There's a few ways that public highways are formed. They are formed by general statutory proceedings in the state and by the regulations of a process, dedication, and acceptance. Dedication and acceptance goes back to England, actually, and we'll talk about that soon. And there's one other way that I talked about in my paper, and it has its basis in adverse possession. That would be the process of prescriptive easements, and prescriptive easements can be prescriptive road easements. My favorite New Mexico case of a public road is called Maestes and Luevano. It comes from a case that was taken to court about a road on private land. So a little backstory, we jumped over the English common law thing. English common law, the regulatory people, the people who made the laws over in England, over the what do they say that? Over the water there. They needed to know who owned the land that had the roads on it in living memory. that phrase in living memory. It was because this was a place of empires. England had an empire. Major roads started with the Roman Empire, but England wanted to know uh, how to call roads that they had lost the ownership of, but it was definitely an established road. And what they did was um, they also followed that common law of dedication and acceptance. Dedication would be someone says that this road will be used to go um, to a certain place across my land on this path to a certain place, and the public can use it. And then the public, people who make the laws, would have to accept that and keep that road. Um, so the concept turned into an idea of, instead of trying to figure out beyond living memory of the Empire of England, they changed it to a concept that it was a grant that was given for a road that just can't be proved anymore. So any road of dedication and acceptance would be like a granted road. So we're going to stick with that theme of grants because it just falls into place with Revised Statute 2477, where the government granted the land for public roads. On to my case. So the Lovano versus Maestas case, fought from 1989 to 1984, was a case of a road that started out as a private landowner's intent to allow property on the south side of the said road to be acceptable on an easement appurtenant. There was not paperwork on this easement appurtenant, but it was made known to the people on the south that they would buy that property, and that road would be for them to access their property, and it was only for them. The fee owner can make an easement appurtenant available to as many people as he wants, and as owner, he can make a complaint if the use of the easement by people without permission to use the road becomes known to him. So it appears that many people on the north and the south side of this easement appurtenant used it without permission for many years and were not forbidden to do so by the fee owner. This equated to the road being in a place where adverse possession starts to come into part of the case. The road legally established, or any road that's legally established as a prescriptive easement, are really roads of adverse possession that have had long public use. So in keeping with the theme of unprovable grants, they're implied dedications. So this equated to that road that was an appurtenance being a dedication or a grant, a public easement that couldn't be proven. And eventually the county put sides on the road and graded it twice a year and considered it a public road. Soon the city paved nearby parts of the road and extended utilities along it. The current owners are known as the Sims, and the owners there, on which the road and the original easement exist, have an implied grant on their road now by the allowance of the road as a public road for a period of over 10 years. 10 years adverse use is the law for prescriptive easements in New Mexico. The plaintiffs would be the people on the south side of the road. They built a fence and sought to limit the use of the road while complaining that there had been a seizure of the Sims property without compensation. The plaintiffs on the south side argued that there was no dedication to the county. The fence in the court case was ordered removed, and the limiting of the road was ruled against. The evidence of the complaint by Luovano that was brought up during trial about having complained about the maintenance of the road didn't prevent the county from maintaining the rest of the road at that time. The easement appurtenant is ruled to be legally subject to loss through the use of the easement by others. So there was an instance where this could be an adverse possession that was not peaceful. Since it didn't happen, the apparent acceptance of the road by the county during the years 1974 to 1987 justifies the court's determination that the road is public. The road being thought of as a public road with the county maintaining the road and the nearby city improvements are combined to show the landowner's grant in the public's use. In the establishment of a public prescriptive easement, there does not have to be money paid in the absence of a express permission. This is exactly out of that court case. It says, in the absence of proof of express permission, the general rule is that use will be presumed to be adverse under claim of right. That's the end of the court case. So federal policies have changed now since May 18, 1776, the Land Ordinance of 1785 and the revised Statute 2477, and new federal policies brought changes to the state and county government as they changed on the national level. On October 21st, 1976, the Federal Land Policy and Management Act changed towards conservation of lands and stopped new RS 2477 roads. What I have here is Catron County then responding and knowing what they wanted to do with their roads. They said, whereas in 1978, a section of law has declared that all roads and highways, except private roads established in pursuance of any law of New Mexico, and roads dedicated to public use that have not been vacated or abandoned, and such other roads as are recognized and maintained by the corporate authorities of any county in New Mexico, are hereby declared to be public highways. And whereas the Catron County Commission wishes to assert rights of way on all roads created by public use, now therefore be it ordained by the governing body of Catron County, New Mexico, Section 1, all roads in Catron County on federal lands created prior to the U.S. Forest Reservation or Bureau of Land Management creation are defined and declared public roads by Section 67-2-1 NMSA 1978. This ordinance shall be recorded in a book kept for that purpose and shall be authenticated by signature of the clerk, and it's passed, approved, and adopted. And what happened there was they just made sure that they could keep all their RS 2477 lands or roads on that had been on public land. So what happened in the case that I found was in Catron County there were these general laws to claim those public highways, and then it was in conflict because the county goes against the desire of some of the local public that has used a road that they have claimed in the past, and the county's keeping an interest in the road. I found this article. It was called Highway Robbery, New Mexico's Lands at Risk. And what the people that are trying to stop the road have said is what's at stake in Gila National Forest is a 48-acre subdivision in Catron County surrounded by the Gila National Forest that's now home to a road controversy that typifies the difficulties increasingly posed by two private landowners by RS 2477 right-of-way claims. In this case, the controversy centers on a dirt track known as Dry Blue Road, which formerly provided access across forest lands across the creek to private land near Alpine, Arizona. In 1983, the road washed out in a flood. The next year, the Forest Service officially closed the road to protect the creek, which is designated critical habitat for the threatened native loach minnow. The Forest Service also spent thousands of dollars to restore the landscape damaged by the washed-out road. In May 2001, Catron County adopted a resolution to specifically claim the Dry Blue Road and any other roads in existence prior to federal reservation of county land as county roads under authority of 2477. All of the homeowners in this area wrote to the county to explain that they did not need the road reopened for emergency services because they had a quicker, more dependable access via another road, and because they enjoy the solitude. Rebuilding the road would also undo the extensive rehabilitation performed by the Forest Service, require removal of sizable trees, and threaten the endangered fish of the creek and destroy habitat for deer, elk, and other wildlife. Catron County appears to be ignoring these private property owners, however, and the ecological needs of the creek in pursuit of its pro-road building agenda. So that caught my eye, that even though um, any road that was ever a public road and maintained by the county is land that the county has the right to. Uh, these guys had called them out on a road building agenda on a road that they had formerly pursued. It just shows that through policy changes, through things that happen, intents on roads change, and there's always going to be these needs to prove what is legally a road, and that's something that the court has the final say in often. The intent to use roads that have been dedicated according to common law sometimes requires rulings by the state as to the categorical recognition as a public highway. Courts have ruled on land conflicts involving roads in the state of New Mexico by following the processes of dedication and acceptance and easement by prescription, while addressing the misconceptions that parties to the conflict seem to have about acceptance or lack of acceptance of a road into the public road system. Thanks, guys.